It's time for episode 285 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer. They got a special going on. If you sign up for the new year, you get 15% off, and also sign up for October 21st. Go Green, Go Blue 5K run walk. But guys, before I continue with our sponsor list, what a time for us to be football fans, huh? I mean, Corunna 8-0. Flint Metro champs, just steamrolling every opponent. The Wolverines are unbeaten, a possibility to win the national title. They're unchallenged so far, and the Lions, upper echelon team in the NFC, tied for the best record overall in the NFL. I mean, life is good, isn't it, boys?
It's hard not for me to look at you as kind of a reason behind this. I mean, you were putting a curse on our program for my entire life. The minute you step away and stop calling the games, you'll win every game.
Maybe you're right.
Something to be said about that, right?
I mean, it's. I know we're gonna get into all of this throughout this whole podcast, but I mean, Ted, for all three, for us, like you said, Corunna, Michigan, Lions, it's never been like this, right?
Ever.
I mean, it's either Michigan's making a run, but the Lions are down, or maybe Corunna's not in the playoff. It's always something for all three for us to be up at the top. I mean, it's unheard of. It's pretty amazing. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm down here in Charlotte, like puffing my chest out. I can't imagine people walking around Michigan or where you guys are at and
or in Tampa. And we'll talk about that, man. The Lions fans, I mean, they're finding maybe it's easier to get a ticket in an opposing stadium than it is at Ford Field. Right? Well, we'll get more into that for sure. I want to thank our local partners also helping us out: AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. And like we like to say, anytime that you're in one of our sponsors' businesses or you see something posted on social media, hey, let them know that you tune into the podcast. I mean, we've been growing this thing now. What is it, 4 years, going on 5, something like that? It's been a while. I mean, 285, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. And, we've had the couple mainstays, I guess, as far as our partners.
Right.
We've had some new ones. We've had some kind of come in and out, but we're always very appreciative of our partners. So,
And we're also
going into Jacobs and get new insurance. Let them know you heard about it on 3 Point Podcast.
Absolutely. And we also appreciate our special guests that take the time to join us. We're going to be talking with Jason Hutton of Fox 17 out of Grand Rapids here in a little bit as part of our prep spotlight. But guys, in the catch up, I just want to jump in. We're going to talk more about the Corunna Cavaliers. I think people out there that aren't from Corunna, I'm maybe getting a little tired of it, but it's a special team.
We're probably creating some like people who are just rooting for their downfall.
Yes,
some listeners in Indiana or something like that.
It's like the podcasts or the shows that are like very slappy, Michigan or Michigan State. They're loving it when those teams go down.
Well, I just wanted to tell you guys, just in the catch up, I was over at the stadium, Nicanese Stadium on Saturday night with Casey Smith, and did a simulcast on the NFHS and the 3 Point Podcast Facebook Live. A few kinks to work out, but we'll get into that later. But the one thing that really perturbed me, guys, this is incredible.
I thought this was going to be all positives.
No, this is negative. So I sign up Saturday morning for the NFHS, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna dub the audio so we can post it on our podcast site as always. There was no audio. There was no play-by-play. It was just muted. And I'm looking, and there's a little message that says, on-demand events on the NFHS network may be presented with audio that is muted or otherwise altered so as to avoid potential issues involving copyright from music. And I'm dumbfounded. I'm going, we didn't play any music. Lo and behold, it was muted because the Corunna band at halftime played a salute to rock and roll. And they played some Kiss, they played some Chicago, and the on-demand got muted because of that.
Wow.
Man.
I wondered, when you texted, I wondered what it was going to be. I wondered if it was just a technical issue. Like maybe you didn't.
That's what I think that's what we all figured it was. Right. A mistake on Ted's end, but it
No. People told me they listened to it.
Uh-oh.
A book.
Dropping stuff.
they listen to it loud and clear, watching it, and it's just not there and on demand. So just a little bone to pick. I'm going to make sure though that during band performances moving down the road, I'm just going to turn the mics all the way off, so I don't have that conflict.
I wondered, we've talked about the NFHS thing a little bit on the podcast. It's crazy to think about how far it's come, even since I played 20 years ago, to think that there's just like streaming services to watch high school sports. It's just kind of crazy. But I've always wondered, I love what you are doing and what other schools do. It is super cool. It's great for people like me.
Mm-hmm.
I was at work, so I didn't sign up for it because I knew you were doing the Facebook Live thing. So I watched on that. But for people like me who are out of state, or we had someone, they were out of country and they were gonna watch or whatever. So it's awesome to do that stuff for people. But I have wondered, like, if at some point they're gonna catch on, whether it's the music copyright thing, or I know you're not trying to do anything quote unquote illegal, I guess, but like say you were selling advertisers.
Oh yeah,
making money off it, and then going to the NFHS and doing a stream. If they were going to be like, hey, we need to be getting a cut of this. If you're making money off of it, we need to be getting a cut. I've just wondered, like, at some point, is something going to come up where it's not just like, hey, plug in and let's do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out Friday night, because I'm planning on, again, simulcasting on the NFHS. Casey, Bart, and I will be doing it on Z92.5. That's a commercial radio station, so I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I bet the audio is going to be muted again.
Yeah. I got something real quick for catch up before we get into the rest of our football stuff.
Yeah.
It basically was I am old moment. I haven't had many of those. I really haven't. This was kind of a little eye-opening to say the least. So Thursday night, getting ready for Thursday night football. Wasn't the best game in the world, but I was going to sit and watch it. So I was stopping off at Hungry Howie's, pick up a pizza before going home. I parked there. This Hungry Howie's is right outside of Southfield A&T High School. So it kind of seems every time I'm there, it kind of seems to be kind of a hangout for kids. So as I'm walking in, I look in and kind of picture like your local Little Caesars is sort of like what the entrance looks like, maybe 6-7 seats. In a little 5x5 like little square where their front desk is. Right. So as I'm walking in, I see through the windows there's all these kids sitting there, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, God damn it, this ought to be interesting. So I walk in and I'm sitting there. Of course, I'm standing at the counter for about a minute before anybody even realizes I'm there. As I'm like about to tell this guy like I'm picking up my order or whatever, I hear like some snickering behind me. So I turn around and sure enough, these kids are looking at me. And I kid you not, I think a lot of people think I'm lying, like with these stories. I wish I was, because it's every time I feel like an idiot in them. These kids point at me, they point at my shoes, and they go, "What are those?" They do the "What are those?" And they all like die laughing. To the point I like look at them, like, are they talking about me? And then I kind of like look away for a second, look back, and they like, oh shit, they are. I'm just wearing like my Nike shoes. I didn't really think anything of them. They're just like something. They're not really that old. They're not like something Ted would wear. But I look down and I kind of like collect myself for a second. Am I really going to say something back? I'm like, yep, I'm going to say something back.
Oh boy.
So sure enough, I look down. I look at this kid's shoes who made the comment. He's wearing his like the Michael Jordan Air Nike ones, 1985, his rookie year shoes, Ted. Which I think those are so like corny and cheesy. Like it's something about them. I feel like when people wear them, I'm like, what are you look like a toddler wearing those. So this kid's wearing them, and I go, this was lame. I'm not gonna act like this was a great comeback, but just it was spur of the moment. That's what I said. I was like, 1985 called. They want their shoes back, man. And it just got crickets. And it was a stupid line, but it was like, again, it's just what came to my head as I was trying to fire back at this kid. So no real laughs happened. They kind of like, they at least shut up for a little bit. I get my pizza, I walk out, and as I'm walking out, I'm like, I just feel like such an idiot for everything that just went down in that room. I feel like I'm 50 years old. That just happened to me.
You now cannot give Ted a hard time for the whole run-in at Greg and Lou's that he
really?
had. Because you basically just had the same thing.
It wasn't like to be fair, it wasn't like Ted where it was pure hatred between the two sides.
That's true.
It was kind of like snippy back and forth, haha. Like it wasn't total blood feud like Ted's. But I get what you're saying. It was kind of like that.
It is funny because I've had some of those moments like, I work, especially now that I've been at ESPN for a while now, I work with a lot of people more like your age, Jared, or like right out of college, where like you do start to have those moments like what you just had like in your mind, I still think I'm like mid-20s, or I still think I'm not that far removed from college, or
hell, I do.
Right. But then, you work with someone, or you do something that is right out of college, and you're like, wow, I'm 15 years older than you. Or, you look at the way they dress, or, certain things they wear, and you're just like, man, I'm a completely different generation than you. And, you have some of those moments. So it's funny that you're already starting to have those.
What is it about like arguing with kids, or like when kids make fun of you? It's like you feel like you can't win. Like you immediately feel like they just like took the air out of your tires. I don't know what it is about. Maybe I'm the only one that's had these interactions, but
no, because it's either because you're gonna give them whatever they want. Either you fire back and get like pissed off, and they're gonna laugh at that. Look at us, we just pissed off this old dude. Or if you're like frozen and they get you, then they're gonna laugh at that.
Exactly.
We got him. And they see you out in the parking lot taking your shoes off and throwing them in the dumpster. And they're going to be, so either way, they got you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just be glad they weren't recording that, and you're not like all over TikTok right now.
I could be. It wasn't, I mean, again, they didn't get the big huzzah laugh. They had the what are those initial comment, and then I don't think they expect me to kind of fire back and have some idea of what I was talking about in terms of like Jordans or shoes.
Right.
So I don't know. I think my rebuttal kind of caught them off guard, but I didn't feel cool after it for what that's worth.
So the question is, in your delivery, did you say it real smarmy, or did you kind of have a little smile on your face? How was that?
Well, I mean, you can picture it. It's like I turn around. I had initial like kind of looked at them. Oh, they are talking about me. They're laughing at me. They're looking at me. They're pointing at me. So then I had like the second to kind of come up with something. So I turned around and like I didn't know what he was wearing, but I just kind of had to roll with whatever he had on his feet. It just happened to be those Jordans that everybody wears, which I actually have a pair of, but I've never worn them. I bought them and I kind of put them on when I got them. I'm like, what? Where am I going to wear these?
Right.
I feel like this is just like I feel like a goofball wearing these things. So I just kind of had to come real quick, looked at his shoes, looked up. I was like, oh, 1985 called. They want the shoes back.
I love it, man.
It was so lame. Like again, it was lame. It wasn't a great. It was just I had to say something. I couldn't just let them laugh at me like that. I had to do something.
It's nice to see that Fattel sarcasm is kind of carried down to the generations. That's all I can tell you.
I don't even know if they registered like what that comment meant. I don't know. They probably don't even really even know whose shoes they are. It's like,
they probably don't know that they originally are from 1985. They probably think they're like new shoes.
Yeah.
So they're probably like, the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah. It didn't even like that was kind of what their face said to me, how I interpreted for the 2 seconds before I like kind of sped walked out of there. It was like, what did that even mean? So whatever.
Oh man, classic. Well, anything else going on with you, Matt? Anything new happening?
Not necessarily new, just man, staying busy.
I know. Yeah.
College football, man, and NBA back. It's always weird. I tweeted out, we did the Lakers Warriors preseason game on Friday.
Right.
And it's always, I don't know about you guys, like even with hockey coming back and college basketball, NBA, it never feels right in the middle of football season when these other sports get going.
Way too early
to try and like get into it. We were even talking about it during even though it's preseason NBA, but still, I mean, LeBron, Anthony Davis played, Steph Curry, Clay, everyone played. And we were like, it's so hard to get into this because, I'm sitting there hyped about the 3 teams that we were just talking about. And so, I mean, that's kind of it. We're just
the NBA is in a weird spot. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be around. You still have those big time stars like LeBron and Steph Curry. It's going to be fine. But in terms of like viewing, I mean, it almost feels like the regular season, especially, has really taken like a backseat to obviously NFL, obviously college football. I mean, even college basketball, I'd almost throw up there. The regular season is more palatable than the NBA sometimes. And even MLB, it's like I've kind of come a full circle on this MLB thing. MLB with this new pitch clock, it's a better product than the NBA regular season, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
I
think one thing that I think the NBA struggles with, and now we're getting into a conversation here, but I think there's just too many games, and I don't know if it's if it's the youth that Jared was just arguing with about shoes or what, but it's kind of the same with baseball to me. You don't need to play 162 games and then have this weird playoff format. It's kind of the same with the NBA. They could shorten the season for sure. We've talked about it. They could start the NBA basically like the week of Christmas and call it good. Maybe the week before Christmas. They always have the big Christmas Day games. Have that be the big kickoff for NBA season. College football is kind of wrapping up. NFL is getting towards playoffs, like they're doing that new in-season tournament for the NBA. It's kind of around Thanksgiving. I mean, yeah, it might be kind of cool, but they're trying things. Hey, they're trying things to build some intrigue. And it's just like, no one cares about basketball in October and November.
Yeah, I mean, good luck trying to try things, because
and I'm an NBA fan too.
I know. And you're in a spot too where I'm not. I don't really mean it, but you're kind of forced to watch this preseason game, right?
Here's the perfect example of where we're talking about this NBA. It's like where people just like are like, what? Like, I tell you what, and it's funny that I saw like Miggy Incognito tweeted at you, Matt, or something, basically saying, "Oh, they just cut from the high school football game to the preseason game." Yeah. I mean, I was watching that high school game, and it's kind of funny how it played out, where it's like, this is coming down to the wire. Number one player in the country is going to try to lead like this comeback drive. And I think everybody was kind of in the same thing. It's like, man, it's kind of a bummer. We got to watch the NBA now. It's
funny.
I don't know. It's just kind of a funny back and forth there. High school football had its moment for a second there.
Especially for a preseason game. Yeah, okay, it's Lakers Warriors, but it's like, come on.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, anyway, we'll talk some other big time sports, but we're going to get things rolling with our prep spotlight and our special guest, Jason Hutton of Fox 17, right after this.
All right, guys, let's get this prep spotlight going. As always, brought to you by Jacobs Insurance. Let's bring on Jason Hutton, sports director over at Fox 17. He always joins us on the Prep Pigskin preview and gives us a good look at all those teams over on West Michigan. A lot of powerhouse teams that us Corunna fans are keeping an eye on a little bit more this season. Thanks for joining us, Jason.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, let's start out there. I mean, we don't have to beat around the bush. Let's start out there. D5, our Corunna Cavaliers are making a lot of noise. Just won the Flint Metro League outright. Looking like a pretty complete team, looking like a really good team that has a legit shot to make a run to Ford Field. But we know two of those teams up at the top over there in West Michigan, West Catholic and Catholic Central, are kind of the cream of the crop in D5, right? Maybe for our listeners who are big Corunna fans that maybe don't know much about those teams, or if there's another team or two in D5, maybe give our listeners who are Corunna fans something that they should think about come playoff time.
Well, you're right. I mean, Grand Rapids Catholic Central and West Catholic are outstanding, and they're going to play probably sooner rather than later in the playoffs. I think Division 5 is really strong around here. I mean, we've got some really good teams. I mean, you guys are Corunna guys. I'm a Belding guy. Belding's having a good season. They're 7-1. I think they're really good. Mm-hmm. If I'm being honest, please, if anyone's a Belding fan, don't listen to this. I don't think they're on West Catholic or Catholic Central's level, if I'm just being honest. I just think those two teams are so good. And I went into the season thinking Grand Rapids Catholic Central was the best team in the state in Division 5. And I still probably feel that way, but I was high on West Catholic coming into the season, and I'm even higher on them right now. I mean, they are just playing so well. I saw them week 3 at Coopersville. They won on a field goal in the final play of the game. Coopersville's really good. They're huge. They're a D3 school. But I don't even think West Catholic played their best game that night, and they've played almost flawless since then. I think they're really good. You know, this is such a good rivalry, and they don't play. I mean, since the realignment in the OK Conference after 2019, they used to be in the OK Blue together, and then Catholic Central went to the Gold. They played the playoffs 2 years ago. That was not a great West Catholic team, and Grand Rapids Catholic Central ran them off the field. I mean, it was not competitive. When they play here in a couple weeks, I think it's going to be a game for the ages, and I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people there. So, including me. So I'm really looking forward to it. Both teams good all around. Grand Rapids Catholic Central is a throwing team. I mean, if you go back over the years, winning their state championships, they throw the football. They have a very good quarterback. Their wide receiver group is amazing. But their running back is, in my opinion, the best player in the area. He had 32 carries, 340 yards against South Christian on Friday night, and he is a beast. And he's a 3-year starter at corner, Kellen Russell Dixon. I mean, just outstanding. And you talk about West Catholic, they lose Timmy Kloska, right? They win the state championship last year with Timmy. He was amazing. He's at Army now. But they've got a guy named Charlie DeBrune who's taken over for him, who was a starter at linebacker last year, still a starter at linebacker. He's a different type of runner from Timmy. He's not just going to run you over, but he can if he has to. He's really fast. I think both teams are really good. And if you want to get into this, like I had been saying since early in the year that West Catholic and Catholic Central is the state championship game when it happens. Maybe it will be, but I took note of Corunna when they beat Goodrich. That was when I was like, well, here we go. Maybe we've got another contender here in Division 5. I've also had my eye on Pontiac Notre Dame Prep all year when they blew out Hastings early in the year, because Hastings is a good team. So, and they blew out Gladwin. I mean, nobody has slowed down Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. Now, I'm not here to tell you that anybody that plays as good as Corunna or Catholic Central or West Catholic, but I think we have a clear top 4, in my opinion, in the state in Division 5.
Is that the division that you're kind of circling as maybe the top division in all the state? I know Division 4 has some good teams. South Christian, one of them you just mentioned. Do you think that's the premier division in the state this year?
Yeah, you mean in terms of like competition and stuff? Like, I don't think
a ball game type thing.
Yeah, I don't think the teams in Division 5 are necessarily better than like 1 and 2.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of the amount of teams, and when I talk about those 4 right there, I think that Division 1 is going to be really interesting if and when we can get to Belleville and Rockford. Who knows what will happen? Rockford hasn't really done it in the playoffs, so I don't know if it'll happen, but I think that could be really interesting. But yeah, Division 2, I'm really high in Division 2 as well, especially on our side of the state when we've got Caledonia and Byron Center and Muskegon and Mona Shores, and the Portage schools are both really good. I mean, I'm really excited about Division 2. So I would put 5 and 2 from where I sit, pretty close.
Jason, in your area, obviously with the good teams that the west side of the state always has, you got to have good coaches. Just throw out a couple names of some of the grizzled veterans and maybe some of the younger coaches coming up that you're really impressed with.
Well, can't not be impressed with John Shillito at Zeeland West. I know the Ducks have just lost 2 in a row after their 6-0 start, but their schedule did them no favors, putting Muskegon and Mona Shores back to back. I mean, nobody since Matt Koziak took over at Mona Shores and turned it into a state power, nobody has done well playing Muskegon and Mona Shores in back-to-back weeks. So Zeeland West loses by 6 and 8 points in back-to-back weeks to Muskegon and Mona Shores. I think Zeeland West has a chance to get there in Division 3. I really do. Forest Hill Central is really good too. We'll see if they collide here in a few weeks. But you have to start with John Shillito when you talk about guys that have been doing it for a very long time. He's the only coach Zeeland West has ever had. He got to the Silver Dome at both Orchard View and Detroit Catholic Central. I mean, the guy's amazing. When you talk about young, I mean, we have a lot of younger coaches, right? The kind of veteran guys have kind of moved on from our area, and we got a lot of younger coaches. I mean, Brent Cummings, shout out. He and I went to Belgium together. He's doing a great job at Rockford. I love the Rams and I love Brent, but we got to see them win in the playoffs. It just hasn't happened. But this team, I tell you what, they're special. It's a really good team. So we'll see there. But Landon Grove at West Catholic, we talked about West Catholic, how good they are. I mean, Landon Grove's a really good coach. Just his second year. He's not even 30 years old yet. I don't know how old he is. He's in his late 20s.
Tony and Eve's coaching tree.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a really good coach. I mean, they are so organized at West Catholic and really, really good. And I guess if we go back to the veteran guys, Todd Colster at Graham Catholic Center would have to now fit into the veteran guys category. He's one of the guys I think is the best coaches I've seen around here. He's just a really, really good coach. And we're so lucky in this side of the state. We have so many really, really good coaches.
One of those programs I want to ask you about is both basketball and football. They've been kind of on the comeback a little bit. Grand Rapids South Christian, they're Division 4. I mean, Taylor Johnson, he's their basketball coach. I think he's one hell of a coach. They're impressive. But what really impressed me about that program, and I'm curious why you think they've really kind of come into rounded back into form for what they were in the early 2000s. I mean, Carson Vees, Jake Vermas, Jake DeHaan, 3 guys that are stud basketball players and football players. Why is this program kind of coming back? Why do you think?
Well, I think it's what you just said. I mean, it's those kids. I mean, they've always had really good kids at South Christian. They always have really good coaches. I mean, you can go down the list of the guys that they've had in both sports, and they've all been really good. And South has made their runs in both football and basketball. Ken Hiskus, I mean, amazing runs at South Christian when he was the head coach there, and he had guys like David Kuhl and some really good players. So, but it's the kids. I mean, no coach wins without really good players. Right. And you talk about Carson Viss and Jake Vermas and Jake DeHaan, who they had last year, who's now at Toledo playing football. They have really good kids, and then you put it together with the coaches. And sometimes those private schools, you wonder about the community. They have outstanding community at South Christian too. It's really impressive what they're doing there. By the way, I came up with this last week. Tell me if it's any good. So Vermas and Viss, I mean, they're both outstanding, right? So can I call them the Killer V's? Is that terrible?
The Killer V's. I like it.
Yeah, that's good.
Vermas is wide out, right? Is that right?
Vermas is a wide out, yeah. Okay. And he plays corner.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's already been used before. I mean, maybe, I don't know if they have like a local radio station. That sounds like something Ted would come up for one of his radio calls.
There you go. Yeah. Feel free to use it.
Take it.
Take it. I was going to ask you, Jason. I mean, you've been laying it out. Rockford, all the other teams, West Catholic, Catholic Central, all the other teams that you're talking about. You brought up Muskegon a lot in your prep pigskin preview. So maybe there's still one. Are there other teams? If you had to make your grand, we're one game away from the playoffs right now. What teams do you think will make a run to Ford Field from West Michigan? Do you think this is the year that Rockford gets it done in the playoffs? Muskegon, one of those Catholic schools. If you had to pick right now, if you're allowed to, are you allowed to make a pick?
Sure. I can handle it. So they're, I'll be shocked if we're not there in Division 5. I'm shocked. I mean, I think it'll be the Catholic Central West Catholic winner. But there's lots of good teams, as we already touched on. Division 4 is really interesting to me. I wouldn't rule out South Christian. I just thought they lost to Catholic Central on Friday night, 21-12. I was really impressed, especially with Carson Viss at quarterback. I mean, he's dynamic. And when you get into the playoffs, they're not going to play Grand Rapids Catholic Central. They're not going to play East Grand Rapids, who they lost to back in week 2. I think they still have a chance in Division 4, but we're pretty good in Division 4 too. Whitehall is a team that I think really has a chance. They're undefeated. Now, they're not playing quite the schedule that South Christian is when they get in their league, but that's a big deal for Whitehall. They were Division 5, but they opted up to 4. Now, some of that probably is to avoid Catholic Central and West Catholic, but they want it South Christian again because they lost by 7 to South Christian in the regional final last year, and they feel like they can get over that hump. And I think Portland is another team. We count them as part of our viewing area. I know they're kind of between Grand Rapids and Lansing. I think Portland's really good. So I think I'm interested in how the bracket falls in D4. And I think one of those 3 teams, if not 2, we'll see if Portland goes east in the bracket, get to the finals in Division 4. I know Goodrich is going to be a team that can make some noise in Division 4 as well. And then Division 3, we kind of touched on. Zealand West, Forest Central, even Coopersville. We're going to see Coopersville this week against Allendale. I think Coopersville's really good in Division 3. East Grand Rapids beat South Christian. So Division 3 will be fun to watch. I do think Muskegon, if I had to pick right now, would be the D2 team to get to Fort Field, but there are so many good teams they're going to have to buy, and they're going to be Mona Shores again in the district, right? Probably Reese Puffer maybe again in the district. It's not going to be easy. And then they get to a regional against one of the Portage schools or Caledonia or Byron Center. It's going to be tough, but I would, if I had to pick now, say Muskegon will get there. And then the $1 million question is, well, will this be the year Rockford does it? I mean, if there ever was going to be one, I would think it would be this year. They really have everything. But, they have not done well in the playoffs the last few years, so we're going to have to see it.
Yep. Well, everybody knows that we're Corunna Cavaliers, and, Snooze, who's pretty good on his predictions, has us going east so we can stay away from the west side. So that's good for us. Little factoid for you, Jason. I mean, take it for what you will. Corunna, every single game, they've had a running clock. 8 straight games. Have you ever heard of that before? I don't know what it says. It's just a stat, but...
Yeah, the Grand Rapids Catholic Central team 2 years ago that won the state championship. They had a running clock in every game until the state final, and they played Frankenmuth. And I thought they were going to put the running clock on Frankenmuth in the state final, and they didn't. They did not. They won the game, but they won by like 28 or 27 or something. There was never a running clock in the game. So it doesn't happen often. And it's always interesting, right? I mean, when you're that good, what do you do? Yeah. And then you're going to get into a game at some point where you're going to need to play in the fourth quarter. And if your starters haven't played in the fourth quarter, how are they going to respond? That's where we were with Grand Rapids Catholic Central just this last Friday, because they had played 7 games, all running clocks. Now, they lost the first one to Loyola Academy out of Illinois, one of the biggest schools in the state of Illinois, 45-7. But then they won 6 in a row, all in running clocks. So how were they going to respond when they got in a fourth quarter game with South Christian? And they did pretty well. They won the game 21-12. They handled it. First game, their starters had to play all 4 quarters. So that'll be interesting. But Corunna's been so impressive. You talked about the snooze to you maps. I watch those just like you guys do. Belding, being a Belding guy, they're always watching when are they going to play West Catholic and Catholic Central. And a few weeks ago, they had Belding in the Corunna district.
They did.
Brett Makita and I do the radio show, and I go, we got to be careful what we wish for here. Belding's trying to avoid Catholic Central, West Catholic. And this was the week after Corunna had put it on Goodrich. Right. I was like, now Belding's in the – it doesn't matter where you go in Division 5, you're going to play somebody really, really good.
Well, by the way, I just got to say thanks for answering that question, because I've been asked by people about the running clock thing. So great answer, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I would guess it's probably happened somewhere else before. That was the one that was at the top of my mind. Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive, even through the playoffs, to do it even through the playoffs. And I mean, Ted, you're probably being asked by Corunna fans, Ted.
Of course.
So, and then knowing that Catholic Central might be an opponent for Corunna down the line, that'll be a nice little nugget.
It's a mental note.
Yep. Stepping away from high school just for a minute. The Grand Valley Ferris game this past Saturday was a great one. I don't know if you literally were there, but I know you guys probably had somebody there. Is Ferris going to make a run? I know they lost to Grand Valley. They're going to go back to back to back. Is this a year that Grand Valley gets back up there? Or what do you think of that game over there in Allendale?
I was not at it myself. I watched it. It was on television here locally. So I watched the whole game. I was shocked that it was 35-0. And then it got to 35-28. Boy, what a tough question. I'll tell you this. Last year when Grand Valley won the regular season game, I was sure that Grand Valley beat them in the playoffs, and they didn't. So I'm not going to fall for that again. I figured Tony Anise will figure it out, and Ferris will win the playoff game. Who knows what'll happen? It was impressive showing from Grand Valley and Scott Wooster in his first year. That was a huge game, and they played really, really well. And you have to love Grand Valley. I mean, they are really good. But I know that Ferris is they're gonna get things figured out. We're gonna see this game in Allendale in the playoffs, and I'll pick Ferris just because of my mistake last year, and I won't fall for it. But I'll probably be wrong again because I'm always wrong.
One last question for me. And speaking of Grand Valley, the biggest play of the game was Kyle Knott making a spectacular one-handed grab. What do you remember about him back in the Jennison days when he was a quarterback, right?
Yeah, he was phenomenal. Like, just do this. Go to Michigan-football.com and go to Jennison's year-by-year results. And look at the 2 years they were really good out of the last 15. That's Kyle Knott's junior and senior year. And you just tell me what's going on. I mean, the guy was amazing as a quarterback. He's the fastest guy on the field. I mean, his agility, he was amazing. I remember Rob Zeitman, the head coach there, amazing coach, great dude. He used to say this about Kyle Knott. He's a wow. And that's the best way I can describe him. I mean, the guy just makes you say, wow, when you watch play. And then he throws up that one-handed catch in the Ferris game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, little mid-Michigan note there. The quarterback, Avery Moore, out of New Lothrop, tossed him that ball. So kudos to him.
And that dude, it was the difference in the regular season last year against Ferris, and in this game too. You know, Ferris has made a living off of running with the quarterback, right? Bringing Carson Gulkrin as their second quarterback and running it. Grand Valley started doing that last year with Avery Moore. They beat Ferris in the regular season doing it, and then Moore has a huge game a couple days ago, and they win again because of him. He's really special.
He is.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, I mean, it's been awesome. You've taken the time out to join us. We really appreciate it. Before we let you go, tell our listeners best spot to catch up with you, probably on the socials if they can't get the Grand Rapids Fox 17 station.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. I always enjoy talking to you guys. So X now, right? They call it. So I'm JHut5 on X. We also have Fox 17 Blitz on X as well. Facebook, Jason Hutton, Fox 17. Instagram, JHut5555. I don't know, some ridiculous number of fives, because by the time I got around to get on Instagram, all the good handles were taken. And I'm on TikTok now, so you young guys probably know about that. So I'm trying that thing too. So yeah, lots of fun. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see a Corunna down there at Fort Field.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you.
Yeah, all right. Definitely.
All right, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys. Always really fun talking with Jason. He's always part of our Prep Pigskin preview, so that was good stuff. And, you know, here locally, let's talk about a few things. We kind of set it up in the open. Corunna just absolutely dominated Fenton 57-7. They came right out of the gates on fire. Jaden Eddington finished with 141 yards, couple touchdowns, but he basically had every carry on that first drive. I think it was only 4 or 5 carries and took it to the house. Wyatt Bauer, the man that really makes it all happen, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, including a 57-41 yarder. Throw some other names out that we don't always talk about. Dane Zeman was the defensive ringleader with 7 tackles, 4 for losses, and 2 sacks. And how about Braden Anderjack? Normally we talk about him and his kicking, but he's out there on defense, picked off a pass, had 6 extra points. He had a 2-point conversion on a muff snap. And then Parker Isham, they were solid in all aspects, had a 38-yard punt return for 6. Just again, total domination. And how about the Stars division? They went 5-1 in crossovers. The only Stripes win was Holly over Clio. I mean, the smaller schools just dominated. the Flint Metro League this year.
You gotta love that, right?
Yeah.
Small school pride. I mean, here's the thing that I've noticed just in our line of work, and obviously we talk about high school football all the time and that sort of thing, is of all the divisions, Division 5 is the one that's getting a lot of the buzz. It's not Division 1, it's not Division 2, it's not 3, it's not 4, it's Division 5. And I mean, it's on the smaller side of all the schools in the state out of 8 divisions. I mean, how cool is that? And then Corunna happens to be right in the mix of it.
I think it's because, I mean, you guys definitely know just as well or better than I do. It seems like D5 is up for grabs. Yeah, like, Jason was talking about West Catholic and Catholic Central. They're kind of the cream of the crop in D5. Frankenmuth, obviously, Gladwin is the defending champs. But otherwise, like, it's kind of up for grabs. Some of these other divisions, I feel like it's almost a foregone conclusion who's going to win it. You got Belleville, Rockford, some of these other teams that are like, they're just probably going to run away with it. D5, I mean, you could probably go down to like the 5th or 6th seed and say that they have a legit shot to win it. So yeah, again, maybe those Catholic schools over in Grand Rapids are maybe the favorites, but there's no reason that Corunna can't win it. I mean, we were talking about it before we started recording. Of course, we're very, very proud Corunna alums, but this isn't just bias. I mean, at this point, 8 games into the season, with the numbers they're putting up, the wins that they have, running clock every single game. I mean, that I would be curious to, I don't know who we could snooze to you. I don't know if he'd be the guy or, someone at the MHSA. Has that ever happened? I mean, if they do it again on Friday against Armada, make a running clock, all 9 regular season games, running clock. Has that ever happened? I'm sure it has, maybe at some point, but
yeah,
I'm just trying to say at this point, what they've done, right. We're not just slappies. This is a legitimate state title contender.
No, and that's what was cool about Saturday night. And we kind of teased it last week. It's like, they're the only game going. I mean, D-Zone, love them or hate them, I think they do a good job, as their, whatever their whole thing is, covering the state. I mean, if you're a key player, they're covering you. And they went to Corunna. They've never been to Corunna before. Probably will never go to Corunna again. Right. So it's just cool seeing all that stuff and kind of Corunna being the center of the football world for maybe the only time ever. Probably the only time ever, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's Ted, I'd be curious. I mean, you laid it out. And again, we were talking about it before we started recording. Yes, the Bauer twins get most of the headlines. Jaden Eddington, obviously, also, and rightfully so. Those are some incredible high school football players that are going to be playing at the next level. But it seems like, Ted, you've watched a lot of their games this year, basically all of them.
Yep.
Everyone does their job. And watching, you mentioned the D-Zone, Jared, they interviewed a bunch of the players after the game. And I forget who said it. Maybe it was Wyatt or Tarek, but they were saying everyone's doing their job. Mm-hmm. And, whether it's offensive line, whether it's even the kicking game, special teams, defense. I mean, it's one of those things where you can go up and down the roster, and I don't know if there's a weak spot. Sometimes you just have a super dominant run game, but maybe the passing game's not that good. Or, maybe the defense isn't that good. This is just a complete football team. And, it's all about matchups when it comes to the playoffs, and we know how that goes. But there's no reason with what they have that they aren't capable of making a run to Ford Field. And it's really cool to see.
And we can do this because we're not in the locker room. We're not coaches. We're not players, whatever. We can start taking a look at kind of the playoff bracket and how it's starting to lay out. I mean, Snooze to You's former 3PP guest, Snooze to You, his latest prediction has Corunna going east, which would avoid those big time West Side schools that we talked about with Jason Hutton. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, we'll see Selection Sunday. It'll be very interesting. I know from my senior year, kind of a funny little factoid, Snooze to You picked every game right except Corunna because they're mid-Michigan. You never know which way they're going to go.
Right.
So it'll be a really fun day on Sunday to see which way they're going to go.
I'm trying to remember. So he was wrong with your team. Did you end up with a better bracket than what he predicted?
No. I mean, we went east, which led to Country Day in regional. Right. So wasn't the happiest, but would have been nice to go west that year.
Yeah. Well, the district was okay for you. It was just that regional against Country Day. Before we leave the Cavaliers, I have been doing tons of research this season, even though I'm kind of halfway into it. But
oh, come on, you're all the way in now.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm in.
You're more than you've ever been.
Yeah. Well, you're right about that, to tell you the truth. But this Corunna team, you hear all the comparisons. Are they the greatest team ever? Well, obviously, if they go 9-0 and go deep in the playoffs, they can definitely stake their claim. Right now, I mean, running clock all 8 games, they've outscored their opponents 376 to 45 in 8 games, right? So it's 47 offensively, 5.6 defensively. And, everybody always talks about the 76 team, and they were a fantastic team. They very well could have won the state championship. But if you look at the numbers, if you look just at numbers, they outscored their opponents 279 to 56. They had a couple close games. They beat Durand 12-7. And they beat Alma 14-7. So they had a couple close games in that season, where this year's team has been unchallenged. Now, Jared, I know you really love it when I get into the Bob Cousy stuff. So let's go back. The final comment, let's go back a little deeper. We know about my dad's team and Bill Strigo and all that stuff, but the mid 1950s, guys, you may have forgot about it, you may not know about it. The 1955 team won the Class C state championship by pretty much every media outlet. They outscored their opponents in a 9-game season, 357-13. And they actually had won, starting with the 53 class, they won 33 consecutive games in that era. Dang. That's a dominant team right there. So if you're going to compare this team to any Corunna Cavalier team, I think you got to go back to 55.
That's pre Nick and Nice, right? He wasn't the coach of that team.
That's pre Nick and Nice. And a little sidebar in my research, 1962. Bear with me. 1962, Corunna went 0-9. They were outscored 355-18. So what did the superintendent of schools do? That was Ray Dennis at the time. Put a little call out to New Lothrop and said, Nick, come on over here. We're going to give you a raise. And, the next year, Corunna went 8-1. By the way, they had a couple, 2 or 3 pretty good players that transferred from New Lothrop to come to play for Nick at Corunna too. So got to do what you got to do, right?
So that school of choice was going all the way back then too for Corunna, right?
We're kind of underground though.
Yeah.
Remember at the beginning of the pod when we were talking about how the people who don't know who Corunna is are rooting for them to lose? I think they just threw their phone out their car. So a good thing we don't got to cater to that audience anymore.
Yeah, but you got to admit some pretty impressive stats. Now going down the list real quick, like Chesaning pounded Lakeville. Who hasn't? 65-0. Braden Florian 378. 5 touchdowns.
Give me the Trace Tokar stats. What do you got?
You want that one?
Yeah.
The Marauders keep their playoff hopes alive. 34-6 over Mount Morris. Tokar, 100 yards, 2 scores.
That's like an Easter egg on the spot. Every week we get the Trace Tokar stats.
You got to get the guys that are doing the job. How about Owasso though? The Trojans, as I mentioned, the Stripes division took care of business. They beat Swartz Creek in the crossover, almost doubled up the score, 36-20. It was St. Patrick's night at Wilman. I spent some time writing that one, boys. Running back Hoyt Patrick ran for 230, had a couple touchdowns. His brother Liam had a rushing TD, passed for 2 more, and had 3 picks on defense. Pretty impressive win there by the Trojans.
In your opinion, before we get, I know we're trying to keep it tight, and we normally do. Yep. In your opinion, do you actually feel like this is a Owasso team that's kind of, for the first time in a long time, seems to be in the right direction?
Oh, 100%. I think Coach Tyner's got them going the right way. Hey, that Stripes division's really tough, as we know, and the one game I think they'd like to go back and maybe get a win was Clio. Their quarterback was out, so they had the backup quarterback in the game. They were ahead at halftime, but then let it fall apart in the second half. But that was a 4-win team for sure, and maybe 5. And I agree, they've turned the corner, I think. So the future's looking bright for the Trojans. A couple other quick scores: Morris over Vestaburg, no problem. 8-man football, 52-0. Joel Fisher, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think we talked about it off air, but Lakewood beat Perry 18-7. Lakewood got the first W of the season. They were winless and now 15-0 all time against the Ramblers. I don't know what it is, but they got their number, man.
They just have their number. And like we've talked about, that was Perry's chance to get to 6 wins for the first time in basically 30 years. They obviously still have a game, this week, so they still have a chance to get there. So it would be really cool to, not just because I have some nephews on the team, but it'd be really cool story locally to have, Perry's first trip ever to the playoffs.
It really would. Well, good luck to them in week 9. Well, that's it, boys. Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. And we're going to talk a little college football and a little professional football right after this.
Success Group Mortgage and Servicing is Shiawassee County's only licensed mortgage broker, lender, and servicer. That means you get exclusive products not found anywhere else. If you are looking to purchase a home or refinance a home in Florida, Hawaii, or Michigan, stop what you're doing and give Success Group Mortgage and Servicing a call. 989-720-4380. That's 989-720-4380.
All right, guys. I mean, we teased it a little bit at the top. We're living in like a Twilight Zone episode. It feels like, Ted, did you ever wake up for your hip surgery? It's probably how you got to be feeling right about now. It's unbelievable. The most unbelievable part is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, man. A big win. It was ugly. I didn't walk away from that game going, wow, we're really good. My more so take was Baker Mayfield really struggled. I felt like he missed a few key throws that could really change the tide of that game. But it's the NFL. You take wins where you get them. The creamsicle uniforms were incredible for the Buccaneers. But another game, another win for the Lions. I mean, how do we feel?
See, I don't walk away with that win necessarily being like, hand us the Super Bowl right now. But I actually walk away with it more of a believer in the Lions because they went on the road. The Buccaneers were only one loss at the time, leading their division, playing really well. One of the best defenses in the league, a great defensive line, just overall a great defense. And, early on, clearly it was a struggle. The Lions offense was struggling to kind of move the ball. Goff, they were struggling to move the ball overall. David Montgomery gets hurt, of course. And, that you're down to your third running back, Craig Reynolds. And they just... they don't flinch. I mean, they're just a complete, really good football team. Ben Johnson adjusted the offense. Clearly, Aaron Glenn and the defense adjusted. And like you said, they made the day hard for Baker Mayfield, who had been playing well this season. I walked away with it thinking this is one of the most complete teams in the NFL. I mean, they were down a couple offensive linemen. Didn't seem to really affect the Lions. Like I said, down to your third running back. They finally got Jamison Williams involved. The defense just is lights out. I mean, they're not letting teams move the ball at all. They're creating turnovers. Jack Fox, the punter, is even having a great season. So
got a game ball.
So that's what I mean. Kind of like what you said, Jared. I walked away from this game. They got the Ravens coming up this weekend, so that'll be another great test. But I walked away from this game thinking there's no reason they can't win the NFC. Just a very good football team.
Yeah. I mean, what could you not like about this Detroit Lion team? I mean, next man up mentality.
Right.
It's unreal that they just plug and play. And the turnaround by the defense. Yeah, they had a couple good draft choices, but Branch didn't play in that game. And, this defense, how they turned it around. Remember, it was a year ago. They were just pitiful. Awful. For the most part.
Don't you still, am I crazy? I still feel like they're kind of standing on their head. I don't know why I feel that way. Again, everything other than that Seattle game has shown they're an elite defense, but yeah, I can't buy into it. Am I alone there?
No, yeah, I think they are one of the better defenses in the NFL. I really do. I mean, the defensive line has stepped up. The linebacker core seems good. The secondary, man, it's just like Tracy Walker comes back. I mean, that guy was laying lumber. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean the level, people, I think we've talked about Alex Anzalone at times, and I mean he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. I mean that guy is just a leader of the defense. He makes plays all over the place. Jack Campbell's getting more reps, so clearly he's probably getting more comfortable in the NFL. I mean the defensive line, we've talked about it. They didn't really have a ton of sacks yesterday, but they were pressuring Baker Mayfield left and right. They're creating turnovers, like I said, and they're down guys. Brian Branch didn't play. Gardner Johnson now has been out for a few games. He's probably done for the season. Cam Sutton was a great signing. He's making plays all over the place. So honestly, I think like in today's NFL, it's not 1985 Bears or it's not, the early 2000s Ravens.
No,
you're not necessarily going to shut teams out every week. So, what the Lions are doing defensively to me is more than enough given what the offense is doing. Tampa's defense is no joke. And Jared Goff threw for 353 yards, so And I know, like, I'm not the biggest Goff fan. I 100% think that he's more than capable and very good. I hope they sign him to an extension.
They should.
At this point, I don't want them to let him go and, go back to the rookie route and stuff like that. No, he's young enough. He's good enough. Give him an extension. You've got Hendon Hooker, who you're hopefully is going to come into like a backup role.
Mm-hmm.
Give Goff his money. He's done enough. He deserves it.
Yeah. And two players really that just completely stand out to me is, well, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean,
yeah, he's
a Pro Bowl receiver. I mean, they got a steal when they got him. I mean, 12 catches, 125, a TD. And, we talked a little bit about the backup running back, Craig Reynolds, one of the greatest blocks I've seen in a long time, man. It was just picture perfect. Two guys with one hit. It was awesome.
Came out of nowhere. Yeah. And there were God, I should know. I think it was Josh Reynolds who had a great block on that play too, as well, but doesn't get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
Initially kind of sprung Amon-Ra to the outside, came from nowhere. Yeah. Great play. That's a football player right there. Craig Reynolds, you can definitely see doesn't have that burst that Montgomery has when you saw him kind of take over in the second half. Just like, wow, they kind of really lost something in this running game. But in terms of heart and playing hard, there's a reason they kept him on the roster. Remember the whole Hard Knocks story from last year.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see him, get his first touchdown last week and then a big-time block this week. But as for Amon-Ra, I'm right there with you. He's taken over my mantle as my favorite Lions player ever. He really has.
Wow.
For those who keep track, the guys who that have been, it was Golden Tate for a long time. Then Jamal Williams took it for 1 year. Now it's on to Amon-Ra. Again, I don't have the football mind to explain why he's good. It doesn't make sense. He's just always open. He's fearless. He's tough.
He never drops the ball.
Great locker room guy. Great hands. You gotta love him. My one itsy bitsy complaint. They were not getting home to Baker Mayfield with 4 rushers. Right. And as you guys know, that's kind of my quote unquote pillar of success in the NFL. Got to get home with 4.
You do.
Hutchinson had a quiet game. This isn't about Hutchinson.
He did.
To me, I think they are still a trade away. They're a piece away. I don't know if it's a Hunter from the Vikings as an edge rusher, somebody like that, who's already got 7 sacks on the year. I think they still need to make a trade to bring in some help on that pass rush.
That's fair. And, they talk about even blitzing. The Lions don't blitz, a ton. They do, but not like overly blitz heavy, I guess. I think that's a fair criticism because, they, like I said, they were pressuring Mayfield, but he was
to bring rushers.
They were having to blitz or, stuff like that. So I think that's a fair criticism. I do think the running back room could be something to keep an eye on. Yeah, Goff can do it through the air. Clearly, he's more than capable. But if Montgomery is going to be out for a significant amount of time, Gibbs is supposed to be back this week against the Ravens, but you don't know because he really hasn't been used a whole lot already. So if he's supposed to be the starter, and then you've got Craig Reynolds, who great story, but he is not a number 1 running back in the NFL. So that might be a place where kind of like you saying, like a trade away. I don't know if they need to go out and sign some veteran that's still a free agent. Just for depth, just for depth, even just to have in case Gibbs can't stay healthy or in case Montgomery is out for long. Because as great as Goff has been with Laporta and Jameson Williams maybe coming on, Josh Reynolds, like you said, obviously St. Brown, you got to have a run game. I mean, you have to be able to run the ball. So that would maybe be one thing that I feel like keep an eye on, like the running back room.
Montgomery, as much as we love him, he's electric. Black visor, best part. Seems to be injury prone. And that was what was concerning is when they're kind of describing it's like, oh, he's had this rib injury dating back to his days in Chicago. They did the x-ray, the results were negative. So this is clearly just some nagging injury that's probably going to plague him. I mean, the rest of his career.
Right.
So I don't know. That makes me nervous. He's good. He's electric. He's dynamic. I would agree he's a better runner than Jamal Williams was. You just got to worry about him staying on the field, especially when you have Gibbs, who's a rookie, but also he's not built like an typical NFL running back. He can't handle, in my opinion, like 30 plus touches a game.
Right.
So when they're really riding Montgomery like they have been the last couple of weeks, it just makes me nervous. Like you said, it's Reynolds is not that guy. So is that a trade that's going to have to be made down the line? I could see it. I think you're right. It's starting to become a little bit of an issue, which is a strong point of this team is that running back room. But I mean, durability is the number 1 skill that you can have. Right. And I wonder about that with those two guys.
Oh, it's good news. Was that official? He has no break or anything. It's just
during the game. I thought that was negative. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
That almost is more concerning. what? This is always going to be something he's going to deal with.
Yeah, but they'll hook him up with a cortisone or some kind of shot before the game, I would assume.
Big like chest protector pad or whatever, you know. But
and one final thing on this team, you know, they have great depth. That offensive line is really one of the major reasons, that and Ben Johnson, that Goff has really stepped up. But you look at that coaching staff, I mean, starting with Campbell and then the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, I mean, they're as solid as any in the league right now. They're clicking, man.
Yeah. Like I said, even like the coaching staff, they're just a complete sound football team. Even, you know, kicking and like we said, punting. They're all around just good. And maybe it's partly as Lions fans, we've never seen this maybe since 1991. We keep talking about it. Like there was always something that was weak with the Lions through all those Stafford years. There was always something that wasn't good. This team, it's all right there. Maybe running back might become an issue. Right now it's not an issue, but
and we've gotten past the SOL stage. I mean, we're officially past it.
Right.
We're all in on this team.
Their PJ Fleck, and just to we are SOL's out in terms of everybody kind of operating in sync, like you're talking about, Matt. I mean, this is when PJ Fleck has his comment, row the boat. I mean, this franchise is rowing the boat. You got all the coordinators are in sync. Campbell, Brad Holmes, they're all on the same page. Martha Ford, the owner, for once, kind of seems to be just kind of stepping aside, letting them do their thing. Yeah, you got to love it. Where do you guys see? I mean, I know I threw it out last week. That's like, I feel like this team, if you really want to win a Super Bowl, you got to get that bye. We saw two big losses from the 49ers and the Eagles. I mean, is that basically what your guys' TV viewing is turning into on Sundays? Is all right, let's hope the Lions win, and then let's just root against the Eagles and the 49ers.
I'm still at the point, maybe because I've just been watching the Lions too long. I still mostly keep the eye on, I do, Eagles, 49ers, but the division opponents. I'm always just like, I want the Vikings, Bears, and Packers to lose every week so that division is just wrapped up. Just win the division. Yeah, the first round bye is great for sure, but I keep it on Packers, Bears, Vikings. Keep losing games so the Lions stay 2-3 games ahead. So when they have that, you know, if they slip up a game or two, it's not going to affect them too much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that a little bit there, Matt. But also I have to admit that the NFL schedule here locally was perfect because I was right there with Jared going against the Eagles and the 49ers, and both games were on, you know, so that was awesome.
A lot of people are saying, and I think Stephen A. Smith is the one that said it, where he basically said like the Lions are the best team in the NFC. Honestly, I'm all about drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm still terrified of the Eagles. That team almost seems like better than the Lions at every position, almost like a better version, more experienced version of the Lions. I'm terrified of them. Are you guys not feeling that way? Are you scared of nobody? Because I'm not ready to go fully all the way Super Bowl or bust with this team yet.
I think to me, this team's proven they can beat anyone. I mean, they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. I still would say the Chiefs, fully healthy, are probably right now better than the Lions, even though the Lions beat them, just because they've proven it. Multiple Super Bowls and Patrick Mahomes and, you know, everything else. So kind of similar with the Eagles. The Eagles have done it in the playoffs, and, you know, they've done all that. But I think the Lions can beat anyone in the league. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, out of those two teams, I would be a little bit more afraid of San Francisco, even though they got the young quarterback who had probably his worst game, Purdy, taken over. But I 100% agree. If you're going to get to the Super Bowl, you need to play for that home field. Do you want to go out to San Francisco for an NFC championship game? No. Eagles, if you went to the Eagles, be a little different. I think they could play with them, but going out west scares me a little bit if they have
Jared
to go
Goff
there.
said it. We got the best effing fans in the league this year. I don't know if I'd always say that. Like, I think the Eagles, that you just can't compete with like that Philadelphia fan base or Boston fan base. But this year, with everything, the whole lifetime of SOL, like this is the number one home field advantage, I think, in the entire league. So I think home field is critical. I think looking ahead, I mean, next week at Baltimore, after that you got Monday night versus Las Vegas. If they can get through these two games and they're sitting at 7-1 after two pretty formidable tests, especially at Baltimore this upcoming week, that's when I will come out on this podcast and say the Lions are going to win it all. I need to see them win these two games, though.
Yeah. Well,
if
we'll see what happens.
7-1 or 6-2 going into that bye week, hopefully 7-1, of course, but it's hard not to drink the Kool-Aid if they're sitting there.
Especially if you look at the back end of the schedule.
Right.
It looks pretty favorable for sure. I'm actually contemplating Thanks. Well, the family's kind of spread out this year on Thanksgiving. Thinking about going down for the Thanksgiving game. I'm just checking out pricing, and woo,
I was going to say this year it's got to be pricey because I mean all the season tickets that they sold and obviously how they're playing.
Let me put a birdie in your ear.
Yeah.
There's going to be a tailgate that I'm probably going to Monday Night Football in a couple weeks. I know you're retired, so you got nothing going on that Monday. Put it on the calendar.
Are you going to the game?
It might need you to fund that.
Well, that ain't happening.
I don't know if I got the funds to just swing $400 ticket, but I will at least be tailgating and watching the game in some way or another at a bar or something like that in Detroit.
Oh, that's not a bad thought.
Which is a good time too. Yeah, go to a tailgate, be amongst all the fans, and then go catch it at a bar down the road from Ford Field. But
I'll keep that in mind. Well, speaking of tailgate, they don't tailgate any better than they do down in Ann Arbor. And wow, what a game! What a season so far. I mean, we're all still giddy.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have the chance to do our normal post game reaction videos, so kind of our first thoughts. The slow start. You know, Indiana's that weird team. They do gimmicky stuff. They had 2 freshman quarterbacks. They were rotating in and out, and they talked about the one freshman quarterback hadn't played, so maybe you didn't know what kind of quarterback he was. Mm-hmm. So, the defense had to figure that out. The weather was crappy. So, maybe just an overall weird, slow start. But after Indiana went up 7-0, Michigan went on a 52-0 run. I mean, it's one of those things, like if you just look at the box score, the final score, you don't even know that and if you didn't watch, you don't even know that first quarter was very Indiana dominated the first quarter. So, this Michigan team, it's similar to what we said about the Lions, similar to what we're saying about Corunna. This is the year. I mean, Michigan, there's no reason that they can't win a national championship this year. They're strong at every position. That offensive line is just dominant. They don't even have to use Donovan Edwards right now. I mean, that's kind of a talking point, but he could be the number one running back.
I'd be happy though.
Yeah, I'd be curious really how he feels about his touches. He's going to say all the right things, but there's nothing wrong. There's nothing bad to say about this team. Harbaugh has those dudes just playing for everyone, playing great football. I mean, I'm like on cloud 9 right now with Michigan football. I feel like I haven't seen, a team like this since 97, back then.
I agree. Michigan's awesome, but you know what's the real bummer this week is it's rivalry week. It's Michigan State, and I feel like it's like we could give a shit less. This game is the least hyped game I've ever seen in my life between these two teams.
Do you think that's dangerous?
Yeah,
at all?
Maybe. I to be honest, my favorite bet of the week is Michigan minus 24.5 or 23.5. I think they're going to bludgeon them. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
There's not even like a Mel Tucker. Like you think about last year, it's like what was fun about killing them last year. It's like Mel Tucker's on the sideline to kind of. Yeah, right. Now it's like, it's like beating a dead horse. It's like how many? I don't know. It's not fun watching Michigan State in this state that they're in right now.
Yeah,
I was 10 years old and they're beating us every year, but that's where I'm at now. It's like I just want this team to be a good matchup, man. It's supposed to be the most fun game of the year every year.
Yeah,
it does almost feel like, I know, Ted, before you jump in, it feels like, I mean, Michigan State's going to play their Super Bowl. They're going to play their game of the season. They want to ruin everything about Michigan's season. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go up 7-0. If the first quarter is similar to Indiana, a little bit of a battle, 10-7 after the first quarter, something like that. But it'd be hard for me not to see Michigan down, through the whole game, end up winning by at least 20-30, Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if from the jump they go out and win by 50 also. Just overall, they're just so much better than Michigan State this year, but Michigan State's going to play their best game of the season.
They'll play hard, but I mean, how deflating is that loss to Rutgers, though, when you look at it, up 24-6 and just totally gave it away. Think of the momentum they would have had if they had won that game in New Jersey, coming back to play Michigan.
New quarterback.
That's gotta affect their mentality.
That's the thing. They got guys entering the transfer portal left and right. These coaching staff, they can't totally be bought in. I mean, they're probably searching for what their next job is going to be right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought for them. So I don't know. It just feels like a program that's in disarray. And I don't like being the bully. I really don't. That's what Michigan's going to be this weekend. Am I crazy? You guys really? I know I'm normally the guy that's like, I'll never count Michigan State out. I'm counting them out. I just am. 23.5.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington beat Michigan State by what was that? Like it felt like 50 points.
Right.
You don't think Michigan can beat them by 4 scores?
Yeah.
That
I
seems
think
like no money to me.
I think they definitely can. I just, I think maybe Michigan State comes out and does every goofy thing possible. Flea flickers every other play and double reverse passes every other play. I haven't looked at the weather. Like if the weather is crazy, you never know what can happen.
Night game.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what if? I mean, I'll be honest. I'm watching these games, and they announced that D'Antonio was on the staff. It's like, what the hell is he even doing? He's like not even wearing a headset. What if they brought him on and it's like literally for 7 weeks he's just been game planning Michigan? That would make me nervous. Now, if that came out, I would be like, oh, we're in for a hell of a night. But I don't think that happened. So.
Still got to have the players, and Michigan's obviously better player for player without a doubt. It still does make me a little nervous. I have to. It's Michigan State. It's Michigan State, man.
Seen a lot of weird games. You've seen, a lot of weird
I
games.
can definitely see this game getting very. I know Breakhorn basically got out in front of us, said we're not like just another team. We're not trying to kill them or whatever. We don't hold any hatred toward them for what happened last year.
Yeah.
But I could see third quarter Michigan really putting it on them. Like things could get very chippy, and it could be interesting. You just hope there's no suspensions. I know Michigan doesn't have any big games coming up for a little while, but. You just hope nothing like that happens and it kind of messes with Michigan's season.
I hope I'm back to the hotel room by then.
You're right. Yeah. And really, either way, like say Michigan State hangs around, they're going to be chippy. Or if Michigan's up by 34 points and, still running the ball, still throwing a little bit, Michigan State might get a little chippy. So hopefully none of that stuff happens because that does kind of take away from it a little bit.
I will say the one thing that's kind of nerd, it's like everything's going too perfect right now for Michigan, for Corunna. For the Lions, Michigan State would be the perfect spoiler. It really would. So I'm kind of going back on what I said. I don't know. You can't ever count them out. You can't.
You're on record of saying, Michigan's going to cover the 24.5. I'm going to say they don't, but I still see them winning by 20, hopefully. I
think they cover. Like I said, I think I could see a slow start. Like I said, 10-7, something like that after the first quarter. But I just think they're so good at adjusting. I forget the numbers right now, but coming out of halftime, they just destroy teams in the second half, in the third quarter. They're so good at adjusting. So if it's a somewhat of a close game in the first quarter, I think they're going to go in that locker room and basically be like, what the hell are we doing? This like Michigan State is terrible. What are we doing?
Well, the biggest factor is going to be how can Michigan State score on that defense?
Right.
That's why it could be a scary night. What are you, just to bring us back down maybe to earth, make it get us a little bit nervous. What did you guys make of the whole Ward Manuel post-game comments? Jim Harbaugh gave kudos to all of his assistant coach. Ward Manuel comes from the clouds with the awkward, well, you didn't congratulate yourself, Jim. And Jim's always awkward. So he had some awkward comeback. I'm really worried about their relationship. I really am. And I know this is kind of a team that's built for this year, and we saw the schedule next year. It's going to be hell. It'll be fun to watch, but it'll be hell. I'm just worried Jim Harbaugh might have one foot out the door already with this roster. Are you guys there? I hate talking about it year after year, game after game, but there's something that makes us talk about it every week. So there's got to be something to it.
I don't know. My gut says Harbaugh is as committed to Michigan as he ever has been. Like he wants to be there. It is weird that I don't know if it's Ward Manuel, the school, I don't know. It's weird that they won't just give him a long-term contract. Like what's the holdup?
Yeah, they've been talking about it.
Right. I get maybe after, he was losing to Ohio State every year. Maybe they were a little hesitant to do it then when he's interviewing with NFL teams. But at this point, back-to-back playoff appearances, man, give him a lifetime contract. Give him the Nick Saban. Just you're here.
A 10-year deal with the highest-paid coach in the Big Ten ought to get it done, shouldn't it?
You would think. I mean, he seems
probably wants to be number one in the country. I bet, or I don't know. You might know more than me, but is that what he wants? Is number one?
I mean, the things I've read, like John U. Bacon was tweeting about it, and he's wrote stories about it or articles or whatever about it, is that Harbaugh, all he ever says, he doesn't ever say, like, I want to be the highest paid coach. All he ever says is, like, those kind of lines, like he wants to be somewhere where he's appreciated, or he wants to be somewhere where they want me. I mean, that's him basically saying, I want to be the highest paid coach in at least the Big Ten. When he sees Mel Tucker making more than him, when he sees James Franklin making more than him, and, obviously, Urban Meyer was, Ryan,
That ought to irk
He's
you.
basically saying, pay me more than these dudes that I'm beating up on. Like, what are you guys doing? So,
and it's one of those things where I could see them like having this negotiation. No negotiation. Just give it to him.
right.
Give him the
Yeah,
bag.
what are you negotiating? Like,
Right.
Because he might be taking that as a slap in the face. Like, you're really going to be like nickel and diming me over like a couple million or whatever. I know that sounds crazy, but really you're gonna nickel and dime me over a couple million or this or that. Like, just whatever he says he wants, give it to him.
Does he still not have an agent? Is that still a fact?
He's his own agent. So
give him what he wants. And to your original question, Jared, when I first heard that, I saw it on Twitter or whatever where Manuel said that. I didn't think much of it. I thought, hey, that's cool. AD sending a shout out to Jim after he says all these good things about his assistants. Then I started getting nervous after you posted something.
Yeah,
it was just a weird interaction.
Yeah,
but again, everything
weird.
with Jim Harbaugh's weird. So I don't.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he meant nothing by it. But
it also is just kind of weird because Harbaugh has been, especially the last few years, so much about the players, whether it's awkward, those on-field interviews after the game, he always like answers really quickly and then says like,
gets a player.
Here JJ, here Blake, come on in here, whatever. He's so much about the players and the coaches on his staff. So for like Ward Manuel to chime in awkwardly like that, but then knowing that they can't see eye to eye with the contract,
everybody knows they don't see eye to eye either. So it's like that's what was also weird, and everybody knows that it was Ward Manuel that basically put this suspension on Harbaugh at the start of the year,
right?
With the free Harbaugh shirts. Just
do you guys
again? We can find. I think it was Joel Klatt or Colin Coward who said like we can find another pencil pusher, Excel spreadsheet guy to fill the AD position. You don't find another Jim Harbaugh,
right?
That's really true. And you think though that it's 100% that Manuel was behind the whole thing? Do you think Harbaugh totally said, I don't agree with that? Or do you think he just went along with it because that's the way it was?
Either what else do you read into what those shirts were week one? Why else would maybe the players are just weird like that. It made no sense, but self-imposed suspension, self-imposed in quotations.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh was like okay with it. If they were like, hey, we're going to do this self-imposed suspension, try and just move on. And maybe Harbaugh was like, cool. Yep. All right.
I hope that's what happened. I mean,
Me too.
Everything I've learned about Harbaugh, he seems like I just don't see him doing that. I don't. Yeah. You might be right, and we haven't heard anything about it. And I'm just trying to create controversy out of nothing with the Ward Manuel thing. But I don't. It's hard for me to believe Harbaugh did that. But maybe he did. I don't know.
Well, either way, what a time for this podcast.
What a time, man. What a time.
I mean, we could go on for hours talking about Corunna, Michigan, Lions.
Right. I think what we'll do. Go ahead, Jared.
If you had to pick, I guess it's kind of stupid because it's high school. I was gonna say if you had to pick one team that's gonna like lose the steam or have that big loss, probably if you had to pick, just forget that question.
I like that's a fair question because when you were talking about like losing, I think you were talking about with Michigan, like because just how different college football in the NFL is. Lions could slip up against the Ravens this weekend, and as fans, we'd be like, man. But they could still be fine. They could still win the division, make the playoffs. If Michigan slips up against Michigan State, loses to Penn State, that could derail the whole season.
Right.
Sure.
And obviously Corunna's at a point right now where they're heading to the playoffs. You lose, you're out. So to answer your question, I mean, I'd be okay with the Lions losing a game or two. Michigan and Corunna right now, they're almost at the point where I don't want them. Can't lose.
Pretty much can't. Yeah, but I also kind of along the same vein, if I'm watching Corunna win a state championship or I'm watching the Lions win a Super Bowl, that's a tough call. Which one's going to grab me more? I think Corunna winning a state championship would do it.
It has to. That has to be your answer. I mean,
yeah.
All would be very sweet, but.
All the pain from the Lions, and I've been watching them a long time. But our Cavaliers, if they can pull it off, they get their heads together and make it happen. After we talked to Jason there, he didn't make me feel any more confident.
It is funny.
You just hope, like I said. I mean, I mentioned earlier. It's like if you want to win a state title, you're going to have to beat Catholic Central at some point.
Yep, you got.
I'd rather see Corunna make it to Ford Field. And then you let the chips fall where they may. So let's just Selection Sundays. It's going to be a big deal. It really is.
I went to I was talking to some buddies in our group text. I sent them a screenshot of Catholic Central's Twitter bio. They're like football handles Twitter bio, and it was just listing all of their state championships. It was just like, oh man, this program is just killer. So, but hey man, like we said, we don't have to get into it again. We're already running long. Corunna has every chance this year. Corunna, everything is there for them.
Hey, we've seen upsets before, so it can definitely happen. All right, let's have a quick Tedertainment tonight and get the heck out of here, fellas. All right, guys, let's wrap up the program with a little Tedertainment tonight. I'm going to start in music. I'm an old geezer, as you know, not as old as these guys. The Rolling Stones dropped a new album, and I got to tell you guys, you got to check it out because it's called Hackney Diamonds. They have special guests. It's like the young kids nowadays have special guests as their, on their songs. They have Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, the late Charlie Watts. Mick and Keith are 80. Ron Wood is 75. But I'm telling you, man, if you're a Rolling Stones fan or an old time classic rock and roll fan, it's unbelievable. Nobody can do this nowadays. I mean, at their age, and their music is completely viable. It's good. It's a good album.
I appreciate, honestly, that's the best thing I've ever heard about the Rolling Stones, is that they're still firing. They still got albums going. I never got it with them. I don't understand. I don't like even looking at I just did it quick to make sure I'm not an idiot. I looked at their greatest hits. It's not exactly the Beatles. What is it about them? Why does the obsession?
Pretty damn near the Beatles. If you just have Alexa or whatever and listen, actually sit there and listen to their music. I mean, maybe it's a generational thing. Very well could be. I think they're right behind the Beatles. As number two,
but they're not more. They're not almost more so. Not necessarily that. Apparently, their music is great, but they're not more so building off of the fact, like kind of more the name Mick Jagger, like the symbol of the Rolling Stones, more than I guess what their music actually sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair, or is that not? Is that wrong?
That's right.
I grew up, so I'd be curious. Yeah, Ted obviously disagrees with that. I grew up listening to classic rock. I mean, we've talked about music before. I have a great appreciation for classic rock. I've never
liked them.
Not like I never liked them, but just never like seen the intrigue, I guess, kind of like what Jared's saying. I know a lot of their songs. They have a ton of hits, of course, but the Stones to me just kind of
Is their logo the tongue? That's them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more so like in my lifetime, at least, it's not really that their music has stuck around. It's the logo, it's the name. I mean, great band name, to be honest. Rolling Stones, perfect. Mm-hmm. It's again, I don't know. I feel bad saying that, Ted. But I mean, they're kind of before your run, aren't they?
No, they're right in this. They're right in the early run. I mean, when the Beatles came over and played Ed Sullivan in '64, the Rolling Stones were right behind them. The very first hit the Rolling Stones had was a Lennon-McCartney tune that they let them have to record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously our 3-point generational thing here definitely comes into effect. No offense if you don't like them, but I think some of the other older people would really appreciate this new album. I mean, there's guys like Billy Joel, right? He makes his living playing all his hits. That's all he does. He doesn't write music anymore. He has a gig at Madison Square Garden. They make all their money on gigs, and that's fair. But the Rolling Stones actually wrote new songs that are bangers. I mean, they really are. So
is it the same sound that they've always had? Is it just it's just 40 years later, or is it different?
Oh, it's incredible. Maybe the sound engineers, who knows? But Jagger sounded awesome. Keith Richards sounded awesome on guitar. I mean, and by the way, you know how I like to throw another old geezer out there, Howard Stern. I heard an 1.5-hour interview with Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
That'd be cool.
Fascinating interview.
So stuff like that, I would definitely love to listen to hear those stories and just to hear, the growth, whatever. That would be super interesting. That's what I mean. I know the Stones are legendary. I just, they've never been. So maybe it's also like my parents, they're in your age group, Ted.
Right.
I know they obviously know the Stones and probably listen to them. I don't think they were one of their favorite bands.
That's fair. Yeah.
Of all the music that I grew up listening to.
Right.
I don't think I really remember my dad listening to the Rolling Stones a whole lot. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But no, they're legendary. And speaking of another one, I had mentioned it before. in the same age group, Aerosmith.
Right.
Steven Tyler, 75. And I'm sure you guys heard that, he had an injury. Or the show that we were supposed to go to here in Charlotte, we're recording on Monday. It was supposed to be tomorrow night, Tuesday. And they had to cancel this tour because he initially just like strained his vocal cords, they thought, but he actually like fractured his vocal cords or something like absolutely ridiculous. So they had to cancel this tour. They're saying it's postponed. They're saying they're going to reschedule for next year. So hopefully, because that was definitely one. We were super excited to go see Aerosmith.
You're going to end up like Ted, Matt, where it was like 4 years they were waiting to go to that Billy Joel show.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully, it'll make it that much sweeter for you.
Yeah. I just hope. Steven Tyler, like Mick Jagger and a ton of other guys. It's the voice. That's all it is. It's the voice. So is he going to sound the same? Like, I just am curious about the recovery at 75.
That's going to be
like,
tough.
Is he even going to sound the same? I don't know. So a little bit, of a downer because we were pretty excited to see Aerosmith.
Kind of similar singing style as Axl Rose, and I don't think he ever bounced back 100% from his vocal issues. So I hope it works your way and you can get a chance to see him. He still sounds good. I've got a couple other, but there's one I want to get on the table. Sometimes I listen back to our podcast and go, man, I share way too much information with these guys. It always comes back to bite me. But another geezer thing, everybody was really big time into The Bachelor, and we laughed about it. We said, how come people are watching The Bachelor? And my wife and I both said, let's check out The Golden Bachelor. Oh my goodness. I know why people watch The Bachelor now. We're sitting there and we're making all these snide comments about the different people and, The Bachelor himself. And you know what else? The franchise. I can tell that they know what they're doing because they set it up perfectly. The very first episode, first 10-minute segment, Jerry Turner is the Golden Bachelor. He's 72. He's hoping to find love with one of these 22-year-old gilfs, and his 43-year-old marriage.
What did you just say?
22-year-old gilf.
Yeah. What is the 22-year-old?
Never mind. If you don't know, look it up.
No, where did the 22-year-old? What is the
22? Did I say 22-year-old?
Oh, there's 22 of them. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was too excited about.
Gilf.
But they set it up with his wife of 43 years goes to the hospital with some issue in her stomach, ends up not coming out of the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So that's the sob story they painted at the beginning. But
they 100% know what they're doing.
Yeah,
love it, hate it. They know what they're doing.
So we're sucked in. We're sucked in
that
now,
show
man.
If The Bachelor gets talked about so much, this Golden Bachelor I hear more about than The Bachelor. And I don't know. It's not for me. I'll never even see what it's about. I'm sorry. I don't know. It probably would be a worthy segment maybe next week if we all watched it, but I can't bring myself to do it.
It's not for you. It's not for you. Believe me.
It's you get attached to a few of the characters, the ones that they highlight. Obviously, maybe the main one. Maybe this one helps get, kind of in your age range.
For sure.
But no, my wife is watching one on Netflix. I think I've talked about before. Similar. It's called Love is Blind. I'm sure, Jared, maybe you've heard about it.
Yep.
It's a similar spin. They get put in a room for hours where there's a wall between. Can't see each other. So you're literally meeting these people without seeing them. Get to have conversations. You learn about them. All that. You spend hours and hours and hours and hours with these people, but you never see them. And then you choose which one you want to be with based off that. And then there's the big reveal, like, oh, this is what they look like. So you get sucked into that. She loves it. I've watched a few episodes. I get it. I just can't get into it. It just seems so fake.
Right.
These people thinking that they're actually going to find legitimate love and stuff like that. I'm just like, this is too fake to me. But I get the intrigue. I get it.
There's one more that I watched one episode. My sister had told me about it. She was out of town and somehow they called it up on the satellite. It's a British dating show called Naked Attraction. Have you heard, either one of you heard of this?
I've heard of it. I've seen people on Twitter mention it.
It's like the dating game where they got a girl or a guy, and then there's three of the opposite sex, and they got like these cardboard things in front of them, more fancy than that. But they actually reveal the nakedness of the contestants, and in all their glory, these guys, and I'm going, what in the hell am I watching here? And it's like one of the #1 shows in England, and they show it over there basically uncut. I think you can get it here I think it's on Max now. That's where I came across it. But it was a 1 episode and done, man. It was, I just had to see what everybody was talking about. And
unbelievable.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But there's one other story I wanted to just briefly touch upon. It's a documentary. You know how I like my documentaries. And this one, I never heard of this guy. It's called The Bright Path, the Johnny Bright story. He ended up playing at Drake University. He was an African-American, and he was probably a Heisman Trophy candidate there in the early 50s, but there was so much prejudice and racial bias, and Oklahoma A&M, which became Oklahoma State, they definitely put a hit on him in a game. I mean, they dirty shots left and right. Wow. The referees were ignoring it. It was just an awful time, but I had never heard of Johnny Bright before. And if you watch that documentary, tremendously well done. It was on PBS. I happened to come across it, but it looked really good.
This was back in the 50s, you said?
Back in the 50s, yeah. And that was the day and age where there was,
Would you consider yourself kind of a ultimate baseball historian?
Pretty much.
Have you been to the Negro League Museum?
I have not. I've been wanting to. That's in Hamtramck, isn't it?
I've heard it. No.
Oh, no, Kansas City. The one in Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah, add it to the list.
I should, yeah. There's the only Hall of Fame.
Have you ever been to a game in Kansas City?
I have not.
I was going to say you could knock out going to a Royals game.
There you go.
Yeah. Some of the Hall of Fames are on my list. I've been to the baseball one, but I definitely want to go to the pro football in Canton and basketball one in Springfield. We've talked about making a Hall of Fame, excursion here in retirement, so we just might do that.
The basketball one, I'll be honest, I went up there because it's not far from Bristol. It's kind of underwhelming. If you're trying to knock off Hall of Fames and you're a basketball fan, yes, go do it, but kind of underwhelming.
If you're a baseball fan, I mean, I had tears in my eyes in Cooperstown. Just as we started into the museum, they had like a little theater where they had these little kids on a sandlot, and kind of leading up to all the Hall of Famers. Oh man, That's gets to you. Baseball, we talked about with Miggy, it just it can get you emotionally.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's all I got. You got anything in entertainment at all?
No. I mean, we're still waiting for your Exorcist review. Maybe that's next week. Maybe I couldn't fit it in this week, but get this, man. This should be uncalled for. I have a wedding to go to on Saturday up in Traverse City. Yeah, up in Traverse City. So the plan is to make the appearance and watch the Michigan State second half in the hotel. Hopefully,
there you go.
We'll see how it goes.
Maybe there will be a bar at the venue with the TV on or something.
Oh, then I might stick around a little longer.
Right.
Yeah. All right, guys, this has been episode 285 of the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Sign up for a membership. Get healthy. Don't forget that October 21st, Go Green, Go Blue 5K run, walk. Get details at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our special local partners. They include AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Special thanks to Jason Hutton of Fox 17 in Grand Rapids for joining us. And a little promo, Z92.5's Castle Game of the Week. It's going to be this Friday night, October 20th, Armada at Corunna. Cavaliers looking to finish an undefeated regular season, tying your school as the last team to do it, right, Matt?
That's right. The first one since 2002, if they can pull it off. Pretty cool.
All right. That'll do it. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.
Rivals Taphouse and Grille is the area's go-to spot for the best in food and drink. Meet up with your friends and catch your favorite sporting events on over 20 high-def flat-screen TVs.
And our 120-inch projection screen.
Rivals can handle your large or small parties and is an awesome spot to put on your fundraising events. Weekly food and drink specials including gourmet burgers, wings, pizza, homemade soup, and salads. Rivals also stocks a large selection of craft and domestic brews. Rivals Taphouse and Grille, the official gathering spot of 3 Point Podcast, located on the corner of Shiawassee and M21 in Corunna.